10com at watch. I've been reading my Bible. I want to share it with you. I want YAHOVA to get the honor. Let's see, in the last video, it was a 10-minute video. This one's going to be a little bit longer. I hope it was attractive to understand that the scriptures were plural and to search them daily with readiness of mind. I also referenced Acts 15. So Acts 15 and Acts 17 in the last video. If you watched it, you'll notice I did drop into drunkenness. It's because where my heart's been wanting to go. I want to emphasize in this video idioms. They're beautiful. I have a whiteboard over there with a bunch of idioms. I just got my second Bible. This is a big one. I had to get, I'm still going to use reading glasses, but I can write in the margins, and it's King James. So, these idioms, this beautiful language, that's what I want to kind of share today. But I asked YAHOVA specifically, why the setup. This is going to be a longer video because I've been listening to the Watchman Ephraim today, and the whole household was listening, and I went from 7:30 to 12:30, so quite a few hours, and I mean, my heart has just been seeded with idioms, these truths, and so I want to share with you Luke, and I have a bunch more places that I've been reminded of today, and we'll just see where it goes. I hope that you'll see and you'll have hearing ears that a lot of what's being said here is putting what's back here in context. That's what I'm trying to communicate. So I'm going to use these. So there was a time when I would read, Luke 12 toward the end here. It's talking about a wedding we're being invited to, and we all know we're supposed to have oil in our lamps, and there's a bunch of people that are going to be knocking on the door, and it's going to be too late, and they don't have oil in their lamps. What does that mean? So hopefully I've been establishing on this channel that what they say in Acts 15 is what your church should be saying. If they're not, please listen, because it has everything to do with the temple being clean and the spirit of YAHOVA resting in your temple. And you can't do that if you're eating and drinking with the drunkards. And so that's what I'm going to go into. And here, it says the thief comes, and if you're not watching, he's going to come like a thief in the night after the wedding. But right here, it says, but the one that's not ready, it says the Lord delayeth in his heart, shall begin to beat the manservant and the maidservants, and to eat and to drink with the drunkards. Let me skip up. He'll get his portion with the unbelievers because he knew his Lord's will, and he didn't prepare himself. So he says here, this parable, you go back and look in Luke 12, and it starts in 45 where I just started to 47. I just paraphrased. He'll be beaten with many stripes. Translation is going to go into the tribulation for knowing what he was supposed to do, and it's not going to be good. So I wanted to look at the word drunken here. I know for the longest time I was so self-righteous. I was even in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I really thought drunkenness was a sin. And it's actually a stumbling block for me. It will lead me straight to heroin. So I personally don't literally drink, but that's not the drunkenness that's being referred to here. And that's why in the last video I dipped over here to Isaiah 28. I think I was just a little bit ahead of myself. But that's okay. Maybe you got a chance to look at it. It says the drunkards of Ephraim. Verse 3, the crown of pride, the drunkards of Ephraim shall be trodden underfoot. So woe to the crown of pride in the beginning, to the drunkards of Ephraim, whose glorious beauty is a fading flower, draw on the head of the fat valleys of them that are overcome with wine. Well, you think they were drunk, but you get into the next chapter and it says, cry ye out and cry in verse 9. They are drunken, but not with wine. They stagger, but not with strong drink. For the Lord, that's YAHOVA, has poured out upon the spirit of deep sleep and hath closed your eyes. So what we're starting to see here is you can be drunk and not with wine. And so you go back to 28, and it's pretty clear to me and you that they're talking about pride. They're talking about pride. And what they're talking about here is idolatry. And I could skip through a few things in 28. For a spirit of judgment to him that sitteth in judgment, for strength to them that turn the battle to the gate. Let's see, verse 7. But they also have erred through wine and through strong drink are out of the way. The priests and the prophets have erred through strong drink. They are swallowed up of wine. They are out of the way through strong drink. They err in vision. They stumble in judgment. Verse 8, for their tables are full of vomits and filthiness, so that there is no place clean. I see a contrast here already. There's the people that are going to be walking with the spirit of judgment, and they're going to sit in judgment. And there's people that are going to be drunk and stumble in judgment, and going to be asleep. The way I think I'm understanding an idiom. Hopefully, I don't stray here. It's a type of language. So if I went over here to let's see where it was. I think it was Thessalonians. This is gonna be cool. I got these finger things on the side. Therefore, this is Thessalonians 5, verse 6. Therefore, let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch. There's the word. I should highlight that. And be sober, for they that sleep, sleep in the night, and they that be drunken are drunken in the night. Let us who are of the day be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, and for an helmet, the hope of salvation. For he hath not appointed us to wrath. So already, I want to come back over here and read verse 10 and 28. For precept must be upon precept, and precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little. So whom shall teach knowledge? Verse 9. Of whom should make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast, for precept upon precept. So there's going to be a group of people that are going to judge righteous judgment. They are. If you want your safe space, go to Planet Fitness, judgment-free zone. And by the way, because you're on this channel right now listening to this, you can't say you don't know. If you're a believer and you've been called and you're hearing this call and you dismiss this, you can be just suppressing this truth. In Romans 1, you can be given over to a reprobate mind, and you're called to the watch. This is the night watch. We need to understand that we're sounding the horn. We're crying out. We're called to do this because of the blood that's going to be on our hands if we don't, and that people are going to die. There's more than one reason. I will be directly responsible for your life if I don't speak and cry out and tell you. So that's the spirit of judgment. Yeah, you're being judged right now. I've been in the rooms of 12-step rooms of AA and stuff like that, and there's always the topic. We don't judge. This is like a judgment-free zone all over. Safe spaces, and nobody wants to be held accountable to the truth. But YAHOVA showed me that I have blood on my hands in Ezekiel 3, and if I don't proclaim the truth, he's called us. I've established on this channel we can we can, display to you how this language is everywhere. And you have to read it line upon line for you to really begin to understand. I'm new to this. I'm trying to tell you in Genesis 9. Boy, I don't want to miss it. Where am I at? 24. The flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat. And surely your blood or your lives will I require. At the hand of every beast will I require it. And at the hand of man, the hand of every man's brother, will I require the life of man. Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. For in the image of God, man. In the beginning, in the Rainbow Covenant, when it was established what was clean to eat, I suppose it kind of gets tricky when they removed Enoch to communicate to you, to search those scriptures. Most people like to believe that the wolves that communicated to them are telling you the truth. And along comes the watchman at the end, and we're trying to tell you that you need to search the scriptures. You shouldn't despise prophecy in Thessalonians 5. You should understand that there's a very elect group that's laying their lives down to tell you that books have been removed. I wanted to ease into this drunkenness. I'm in the wrong chapter here. This drunkenness, eating and drinking and being drunken, because you think YAHOVA delays and you're not ready, and you don't realize you're going to be beaten with many stripes, and you're going to go into tribulation, and you're going to be least in the kingdom. And, he's been looking to communicate to you the idiomatic understanding of eating and drinking with the drunkenness. That's why I go back and I read Isaiah 28 to the best of my ability, my servile ability, where I'm at today. I've only been fellowshipping with straight as a gate for 10 Sabbaths. And I think I already read it even in this moment with you right now. Let's see, back one more page. The tables are full of vomit. This is a language that's being spoken of here. For all the tables are full of vomit and filthiness, so there's no place clean. See, as you read these beautiful passages right here, I'm just going to go from the heart here. What you begin to understand is behind every green tree, the idolatrous and the prideful are feasting, and they're dismayed at the heavens, the heathens. It says, and they go from the winter solstice, right, the winter solstice, to the spring equinox, to the summer solstice, to the fall equinox, all the way around, and coming at you live from Rome. They literally changed the beginning of the calendar to winter. They've got the calendar starting when there's nothing even living. That has nothing to do with creation. He just created flowers and fruit, like in April. And so what I'm trying to communicate to you, ad lib, Rome changed these things. Rome has communicated, or made an attempt to communicate their heathen practices into the lives of believers by taking this word that I just lifted up to you and removing YAHOVA out of it 7,000 times, and Yeshua. It changes the months. It says they'll change. The Antichrist will change times and seasons. Or times and laws in there. And so effectively, they've changed the calendar thereby changing the seasons and changing the holidays, and with their feasts, they show you, Antioch Epiphany is a couple hundred years before Christ. the Messiah, Yeshua, the Messiah, a couple hundred years before that, he went into the temple and literally took a pig. You know, that's something that they barbecued, and they barbecued that on YAHOVA's altar, and they desecrated the consecrated and set apart temple, and in Christ, they make it sound like he had this little thing around his head right here. They took thorns, man, and they Rome, man, they crucified him, and they took thorns, and they made a helmet. You know, when this thing was made, it was made when it was green and it was twisted. It was like a football helmet, man, and they put it on Yeshua. You know, so there's people that eat unclean meats, and they took, after Yeshua, after the crucifixion, after they killed all the apostles, and after they made it punishable by death, after they took all the scriptures, it took almost 500 years after Yeshua, before Rome was supposedly finished. And I just wanted to tell you, ad lib, they took the scriptures and they took his name out, and they changed the calendar. They did all these things, man. Antioch Epiphanes in 325 AD is responsible for the Council of Nicaea. Okay, they decided that Enoch didn't need to be in here. I told you on this channel, I read the first 10 chapters, looking at the Rainbow Covenant, and I'm like, where's the rated R movie here? Where is what I know is in Enoch? Where is it at? And I mean, when you just read it alone, you come away with the conclusion that it should say a lot more regarding violence and blood. It should say, and I'm trying to communicate to you, it did say. Jude said that. Jude said there should have been a book of Enoch, And if you sit down and you look at Enoch, you find out there was human sacrifice. That's bad enough. Don't hate your brother. Don't strangle. Don't drink blood. Don't kill your brother and eat him. There was a lot of things going on, but there was cannibalism, apart from unclean meats. Abominable meats, and so. These practices that were done then are being done now in the shadows. So what I'm just saying from my heart, the servant that doesn't see that Jehovah's coming is not ready, and he's eating and drinking with the drunken, the idolatrous people that are full of pride, and they're practicing what they're practicing. Some are complicit and some are stupid. There's a chance that someone will hear me on this channel and realize that it's Rome that decided the name of January, the god Janus, and we're going into Lupercalia, and then we're going into St. Patrick's, and we got Valentine's Day in there, and all these things. When you get on Wikipedia and look, and you realize there's a cycle. There's a cycle that goes around where, Rome's not gone. Rome's not gone. It went from Caesars to popes, and they were the spiritual forefathers. I was reading something, and today I was listening to the porter, the watchman in the gate, and I have to caution myself for being too presumptuous. But if I can find Habakkuk, a little number of things. If you give me a moment here. Let's see. No, it was Hosea. Yeah, this was about feasting. It was. I was in Habakkuk 2. So there's two thoughts I have. For she did not know that I gave her corn and wine and oil, and multiplied her silver and gold, which they prepared for Baal. I was reading that, and it just came into my heart that Jehovah doesn't give you provision to commit adultery. If you got money in the bank account, and rent's paid, and the fridge is full, and you get a job, it's not to drag a Christmas tree in your house. It's not to paint Easter eggs. It's not to serve other gods. He's called us, and he's told us right here, I will cause her mirth to cease, her feast days, her new moons, her Sabbaths, and all her solemn feasts. And I think, thank you, YAHOVA saw me going here, and he caused me to remember this. I just came upon this today, and I was just ad-libbing and trying to talk to you about the calendar and how it goes around, and these days off. The 8 days a week you get when you got a 401k, or the 8 holidays a year. They're all pagan. They're all heathen. It's all idolatry. He didn't call us to serve Baal. He called us to serve our brother, serve him and serve our brother. And people are going to die, and their blood's going to be on your hands. And if you're not watching, you're going to be going right with them. I don't know if I can find Habakkuk and continue the thought I have. Let's see. It's a really small book. And I am wondering, it's this way. If I can pick it up. For some reason I said it first. Yeah. Okay, if you just give me a moment. It's all abandoned if we go too long. We're in Amos. Jonah. Gosh. Yeah, I was reading something. But yeah, I did want to communicate. Most everything that I did communicate. Get one more moment. I know my heart's in it. My heart's in it. Yeah. I should have marked something that small if I wanted to. Yeah. Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk. Nahum, Habakkuk. Okay. Right there. Bam. Oh, I remember I had a thought. They were reading in chapter 2, and I noticed this says, I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and I will watch. Then we got down to 4. It was talking about the unrighteous, it says, behold, the soul which is lifted up is not upright in him. And then it contrasts, it says, the just shall live by faith. And then it goes back to the other, it says, yea, because he transgresses by wine and he is proud. And I knew it was talking about idolatry. And I think I underlined this because where it said the just live by faith, I thought of the difference between the Catholic Church and the Protestant Reformation. I thought of what he wrote his little writing and he nailed it on the door, and I think he was a shill. I'm talking a lot about Rome. I could be presumptuous right now, but I think what he should have nailed to the door was the 10 Commandments. Because I found with straightasthegate.net that I can pretty much take and substitute the word faith for obedience, and it gives me a greater understanding, and that's what I've been doing. So if I said the just shall live by his obedience, I would be able to say, paraphrase, being obedient, I'll be justified. And I know this shield came out, and here in the Americas we got the Protestant Reformation, and all of this lawless doctrine is taking this out of context. You remove obedience from the just living by faith, and you have lawlessness. You have lawlessness. You have people that are not going to be watching when the bridegroom comes for the bride. And this really comes down to the elect. You know, I've been all over the place today. I thought I was prepared until I spent what it was 5 or 6 hours with the group, and yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. The world's apostate right now. The believers are all apostate. They're apostate. They're being taught lawlessness. The Reformation left the church about 500 years ago. And, you know, they rectified it. The daughter that came from the main whore, all the daughters, all the denominations have just rectified. They're all one again. You know, they're all one. They just want to coexist, and can everybody get along? And then he's called us out of that. He's called us to watch, and he's called us to hold our brothers accountable. Let's see, Thessalonians 5. I wanted to talk about 2 things. You know, I've already established being a Berean and searching the scriptures, but this group of people that I'm going to describe is not despising prophecy. I underlined that. Yeah, so it's 5 verse 20. But this group of people that's called out, this bride, this 144,000, this very elect group is not going to be deceived in the end, because they're doing these things that I'm suggesting that you do right away. It says in verse 9, for YAHOVA hath not appointed us to wrath. You can personalize that. You know, I'm going to put a little asterisk right there. You know, us. Bam. I'm going to personalize that in my new Bible here. But right before that, it says, verse 6, therefore let us not sleep as do the others. Let us watch and be sober. For they that sleep, sleep in the night, and they that be drunken are drunken in the night. Okay, and then it goes into let us. So it's us and them. It's really us and them. The Catholic Church, the Protestant churches, they're drunk. They're feasting. They're drunk. They're asleep, and watchmen are called at the end to wake them up. That's the whole call of this watchman. You know. Let's see. I want to go back to Luke. I want to wrap this up. I do. Few stripes. I'm not going to go into the few stripes. Well, there's people that are going to be held in ignorance. They aren't going to know, but that's not you. You hear me right now. 49, it says, I've come to sit in fire on the earth, and what will I, if it be already kindled? I have a baptism to be baptized with, and how am I straitened till it be accomplished? Suppose ye that I come, this is red letters, by the way, this is Yeshua, to give peace on earth, but I tell you, nay, but rather division. From henceforth there shall be 5 in one house divided, 3 against 2, and 2 against 3. The father shall be divided against the son, and the son against the father, the mother against the daughter, and the daughter against the mother, the mother-in-law against the daughter-in-law, and the daughter-in-law against the mother-in-law. Once you see a cloud rise out of the west, straightway you see there come a shower, and so it is. And when you see the south wind blow, you say, therefore will be heat, and it come to pass. Ye hypocrites, you discern the face and the sky and the earth, but how is it that you do not discern this time? Yea, and when even yourselves judge ye not what is right. So I want to say 2 things. The call of the watchman is to take up this sword and be anointed with his spirit, and have the fire, and understand that Yeshua wants to divide the household. He does. He wants me to be speaking this, and he has. I've experienced this. Neither one of my brothers now we're not really able to communicate. We're not. I've laid it down once. Turned back from the Sabbath. He turned back from the name of Yah. The other, we presented him the name of Yah. I had another brother call him. I had an elder at my house, and I had sent word into the prison to have him call me, and he said, I want to talk to your friend. And so I texted my aunt yesterday. You know, I'm not trying to make this all about me, but I'm beginning to experience the results of the fire. He's wanted this. He's wanted the truth to be just established, and you know, I see it. I see it. He says, "I'll make your faces hard." Against these people. I've just gotten to the point where enough is enough, and no more bullshit. You know, I tell the one brother, and shit or get off the pot, man. You know, quit playing around. This ain't a joke. So discerning the time was the other point. And ye and why even of yourselves judge ye not what is right. Okay. It caused me to go to Deuteronomy. I did mark this. 17, every man shall give as he is able according to the blessings of YAHOVA thy God, which he hath given thee. Judges and officers shalt thou make thee in all thy gates, which YAHOVA thy God giveth thee throughout thy tribes, and they shall judge thy people, and with just judgment. You know, the world's been wrong. I think they were, you know, they're afraid. All you hear is don't judge, don't judge, don't judge, don't judge, don't judge. He tells us, I'm going to start where I started. Luke 12:42, who then is the faithful and wise steward, whom YAHOVA shall make ruler of his household to give him the portion of meat in due season? Blessed is that servant who Yah, when he cometh, shall find doing so. Of a truth I say unto you, that he will make him ruler over all that he has. He's called us to judge. He's called us to judge righteous judgment. You know, even the people in recovery know, because I've been in so many 12-step meetings where they say, don't judge, don't judge. I literally told them I'm not going to roll down my window and throw my discernment out, you know. And I would continue to tell them, hey, maybe you don't want to hold hands under the table. If you want to turn your life over, maybe if you're going to hold hands in a circle and pray the Father's Prayer, maybe you want to say His name. You want, you know, and so it's not just my family; it's community around me. I've known for a long time I was different, and it wasn't until I sat in that chair, 10 weeks ago. Yeah, 10 weeks ago, and I cried out. And I said, where's my people? And he brought me to my people. And I got into covenant, completely into covenant. And, you know, you look over here, look. Let's see if I can turn this without messing it up. There's no books. There's no books. I've thrown out the cover. I threw some coins in a little jar I have in there in the laundry room. And I found one of them chips from AA yesterday. And it's, you know, I'm not going to melt it with a torch. I just walked in and threw it in the trash. I don't want the circle. I don't want the pyramid. I don't want, you know, I have thrown off everything, and I'm communicating to you. It's, you know, if you're going to go through the commandments and ask Jehovah where you're at on them, and you do that, and you say, I don't want to have anything between me and you. I don't want to have any images in you know, commandment number 2. I don't want anything, you know. If you're going through these commandments and you ask him to show you, he'll show you. You know, I asked him, and he showed me that there was some tassels from the people I feasted on tabernacles. And I think I told you this if you haven't seen the earlier video, but he told me when you get home, you know those well, I call them court shoes because I got divorced, and my lawyer's like, yeah, get some nice clothes. Don't come in dressed with. I'm like, okay, you know. And so I got church shoes, whatever you want to call them, and I wore them to that tabernacles meeting. You know, I didn't put a tie on. You know, I got them from court. You know, and I had the tassels there, and he told me, and what am I saying? I'm saying if you understand, if you pick up what I'm putting down, I'm saying get with Jehovah and ask him, do I have any idols in my life? I started, I didn't want to come too heavy. Started talking about these holidays. Why are you doing what you're doing? Have you ever asked yourself? And I think it's important. I've been saying this on my on Jehovah's channel. It's okay to be taught wrong. If you don't know, you don't know, and it's okay if you don't know. But that's why I don't read the few stripes of the servant, the ignorant one, because you're not ignorant. You're hearing me. You open this window today, and I'm telling you to turn the battle to the gate. And man, I don't want to gloat, but it'll make you proud. At least you got courage. A coward dies 1,000 times. I only have to die once, and I'll die righteous. The coward is going to be with the unbelievers. I know you probably don't want to go in and tell your wives, we're not doing Christmas. We're not paying Easter eggs. You probably don't want to go tell that Jezebel. You're called to tell your children the commandments by Jehovah. If everybody taught their children the commandments, we wouldn't be in this situation right now. I'd had hoped I'd done a better job than I feel like I have. I tell you, this isn't easy, but I've been spending the time, and I just wanted to communicate. We can't despise the word of the prophets. And if you're going to a Christian church and they're telling you, the Old Testament's done away with, they're pulling what I'm going to call the Jedi mind trick, the Obi-Wan Kenobi on you. These aren't the droids you're looking for, man. The Old Testament's done away. We're not under the law. We're in the new covenant. It's all bullshit. If you come to straightasthegate.net and you ask those questions, come to the Sabbath. That's the invitation. Go look at what they're teaching and what they're teaching in Acts 15. When the Jerusalem Council got together, if you just look at the time frame, I'm trying to communicate, Yeshua resurrected, gave them the Spirit, and they were going for a little while, They're like, okay, they've already got people coming in. Man. They're just, Jude talks about it. The spots in their love feast. There's only one chapter, so spots in the love feast. The clouds without rain. They spy out your liberty, which is an idiom for the 10 Commandments, the law of liberty. Hope you've gotten at least that today. I was excited when I found out I didn't know how to read the Bible. Come teachable like a child. Maybe I do want to use some of this time to talk about Jude. Maybe I do. I thought I was winding down. I'm thinking of Cain. Thinking of the royal law. One of the brothers showed me this. Peter, John, Jude. Oh, too far. It's one page. Might miss it a couple times, huh? I got 3 John. We're there. Boom. Okay, no. Woe unto them that have gone in the way of Cain. Gone in the way of Cain. You've been to Sunday school. Gone in the way of Cain. Let's see. I'm just going to underline Cain. Oh, yeah. Gone in the way of Cain. It says, men have crept in unawares somewhere in here. I'm looking for it. Men have crept in unawares. angels, men crept in unawares who were before of old ordained for this condemnation, ungodly men. This is verse 4. Turning the grace of YAHOVA into lasciviousness and denying the only Lord and Yeshua the Christ. So they're denying. Okay. They come in to spy out the liberty is what I'm really looking for. I promise you it's there. But anyways, it's woe unto them. These men have crept in unawares. They're spies. They've come in to spy out the liberty and take people into bondage. The world now is full of a bunch of apostate pastors or wolves, and they're teaching a false gospel. They're teaching a false gospel. But you know what I learned from the way of Cain when another brother was talking about it? Cain was directly asked by YAHOVA. He had killed his brother, and I found out the blood's crying out, It cries out. We've established, you shed blood, and there's a recompense, there's a requirement. YAHOVA asked Cain, he said, where's your brother? And he responded with, am I my brother's keeper? YAHOVA had every right to ask him, and I have every right to ask you why you think you're not responsible for your brother. Do you think this world should be a judgment-free zone? Yeah, there's no safe spaces on this channel. You and I are directly responsible. I mean, you read Ezekiel 3 and you see that, the blood of your brother's on your hand. And you read 1 John and he said, you can just hate him. One of the brothers, I said, my blood brother, out of the abundance of his heart, it comes out when he's drunk. He tells other family members, Danny hit me over the head with the stick, when we were decades ago. It's hate. That's contempt. It's contempt for the truth. I've tried. We have contempt today in this magnified. This situation's magnified. Interesting. YAHOVA was way ahead of me. Look up there. There's two pictures with magnifying glasses in there. I just got some bookends and pirate shit to hold the books up, and a couple stupid pictures off of Amazon. I didn't know one of them was gonna have a feather up there. And I'll be memorizing Jeremiah 8, 8, and 9, the lion pen that describes the change the law. I didn't know I'd be in a mode where I was asking, where am I going? What am I doing? What am I seeing? I didn't know I'd be studying prophecy, and I'd have a telescope up there to remind me of the foreknowledge of looking afar off, which is really not that far off. It's about, I think, 5 seasons. What I'm trying to communicate to you as the youngest brother in the household, like 10 weeks, that the called out ones, the very elect ones, the bride, they're not appointed to wrath. They're not. In Revelations 12:5, the man-child, the same group, is going to be caught up to the throne. I'm there now. I underlined dragon. This dragon is going to be cast down. He's going to take 1/3 of the stars with him. That's another idiom. You find that in, I believe, Isaiah 28. You start reading this living word, and it's alive, and there's a language. It's a spiritual language. This coexists with this, and underlining the man-child who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up to God. The woman's going to go into the wilderness. You know, the evil servants that are not going to answer the call of the watchman to walk in love and tell our neighbors that he's coming and he's coming soon. If you're not keeping covenant, you're not eating clean, you're not going to be spared from this wrath. And these lioness churches are telling you, you know, this Willy Wonka golden ticket. They're trying to, you know, this get out of jail free card. You know, oh yeah, all you got to do is believe, the just live by faith. You know, that's why I wanted to get on here and establish you need to walk in obedience. Because if you don't walk in obedience, you know, Revelation 12 is going to happen. It says they're caught up to YAHOVA and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared to YAHOVA, and they should feed her there 1,260 days. There was war in heaven, and Michael and his angels fought the dragon, and the dragon fought his angels and prevailed not. It's actually the tattoo I've had forever. The angel puts the chain on the dragon. Had it long enough for it to fade. Yeah. People don't believe, and then they don't obey. They don't hear and obey. This is your only choice. You know, this pre-trib, post-trib, mid-trib. The one that's not appointed to wrath. You know, we looked at in Thessalonians 5. This man-child that comes out of this woman, she gives birth. He's going to be caught up, you know, he's going to be caught up to the throne. He's not appointed to wrath because he's watching. He's watching. And so if you're not watching, it's pretty clear you got hate in your heart. You might not be able to identify. Maybe you never asked. Maybe you never prayed to YAHOVA regarding the commandments. I understand that. Maybe you never knew about the magnified law. Did I write down something that maybe I could close with? Was it Matthew 5? Yeah. I think it was Matthew 5. Let me go with that. I'll close this. I've been talking for a while. I don't even know if this will go on TikTok. You can put it on YouTube. It doesn't matter. This is a sacrifice. This is an offering to YAHOVA. I don't care if you like me. He's going to send us where it needs to go. Matthew 5. Yeah, you heard that it was said by them of old time, thou shalt not kill, and whoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment. But I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of judgment. If I've told you anything on this channel, it's about the condition of your heart. You heard me talk about my brother and my aunt, both my brothers and my aunt. I love them both. I sent my brother in prison some money today. I want him to have a package, but I can't do nothing for him if he ain't going to call out on the name of Yah. You know, all I can do is accept the fact that he was reading a book on Constantine. Maybe the hook is set. All I can do is plant seeds as a watchman. I'll have no anger. See, if you offend in one, do you offend in all when it comes to the commandments? It's just like, you can't keep a Christmas tree and just not steal and not mess with your neighbor's wife. And just, it has to be, you know, all 10. And you got to eat clean. For I say to you that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees, you shall in no case enter the kingdom of heaven. I didn't mark anything, but they would tithe on the mint and cumin. I mean, they would freaking cut a pie. If it was full, you know, you need to cut it in fourths, they'd cut it exactly. You know, they to the scale. If it was a gram, it was a gram, you know. That's what they tied on the mint and the cumin, and they didn't know the weightier matters. They didn't know the spirit, you know, justice and mercy. They didn't know nothing about that. They just knew the letter of the law, and I'm trying to tell you that this is about the human heart right now. The time we're in is it's about getting your heart right and getting your mind right, getting your mind sanctified, and getting your relationship right with YAHOVA. Only to find out that, you know, it goes into prayer, I think, right here. Yes, whoever says to his brother, Raka, shall be in danger of the council, but whoever shall say, thy fool, shall be in danger of hellfire. If thou bring thy gift to the altar, and that remembers that thy brother has aught against thee, leave thy gift before the altar and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother, then come and offer thy gift. I can't offer a sacrifice to YAHOVA right here with my lips if you know, I've got aught against my brother. It's about understanding we're called to forgive, let everything go, and get the log out of our eye, and you know, keep these commandments, eat clean, and understand the calls to watch. And if you don't do that, he's going to come like a thief. I don't got to raise my voice to tell you that. He's going to come like a thief, and you're not going to be ready. And Luke says you're going to be beaten with many stripes. There's a proverb back there that I don't know where it's at. You know, it's 100 lashes for the fool, and the wise man receives the rebuke. Something to that effect, paraphrasing. It's a contrast. Be wise, get with the program. We're talking about walking in love. I don't know why it's a puzzle. It's not a puzzle. You need to walk in love. You need to keep the commandments and love thy neighbor. Love the Lord, you know, love YAHOVA above everything. It's about giving all. You'll find out when you do, you're not going to have any friends. May have one, I got one or two. Your family, you know. You find out the odds. Ecclesiastes says, you know, an honorable man is like 1 in 1,000, and women, where can you find them, you know? You know, I was looking at views on my last video, and it got over 1,000, and I was thinking, yeah, knowing what it says in Ecclesiastes, there may just be one person. Ask me again, would I do it for one? Yeah. If one soul could be saved for me sitting there, you know, for 52 minutes, but I'd do it if nobody stepped up. I'd do it because I was asked to do it. I'm not doing it just for me, you know. I was told my household, you know, my daughter, my grandkids are will be prevented from wrath, will be spared from wrath. And I was over there looking in the Rainbow Covenant. I was looking in the Rainbow Covenant, trying to understand it, read it, know it, so I could communicate it. And I saw Noah. He was the righteous man that, you know, just kept saying he kept keeping the commandments. He kept God's command, kept God's command, kept God's command. They weren't the 10 commandments, but everything YAHOVA asked him to do, he did. And I was like, man, I just read 1 John. You know what that means? See, the Spirit brought it to remembrance. See, I'm able to tell you without no guile in my mouth that Noah loves YAHOVA. When you read 1 John, you see, if YAHOVA asks you to do something, you do it, then that's love, that's obedience. 1 John says, you love me, keep my commandments. He's speaking for YAHOVA. And so, yeah, you're called to love YAHOVA, and you're called to love your neighbor. And maybe we'll go more as I learn more to be able to communicate it. We're down to about 5 seasons, guys. If you know anything from church, it says you won't know the day or the hour. But, if if you need the answer sooner than that, come to straightasthegate.net. We know the season. You know, it has everything to do with the fig tree in Psalms 90. Yeah. We're in that last 10 years right now. Yeah, we're in that last 10 years. Yeah. It's going to be before the fall of 27, and it's going to be, you know, having everything to do with the fig tree. The hasty fruit before the summer, at the end of the spring of 2027. And it's January of 2026. You know, I'm thankful to have been called as a watchman. I'm more than happy. So thank you for spending this time. I hope you heard. I hope you have ears to hear, and come to the group. Come to the group. So thank you.